Thousands of years ago, before the first writings, before the first states, before the first temples, someone was already walking on this earth. Who were they? Where did they disappear to? And why is all that remains of them megaliths, underground cities, and traces of technology that even modern engineers cannot explain? In this video, we will travel back in time to a place where official history turns a blind eye. Because the deeper we dig, the less we understand. And the more one question arises: who were the people before history? For thousands of years, humans have tried to understand where they came from. Archaeology, anthropology, linguistics. All these sciences have given us an approximate idea of the past. But the further we push back the boundaries of the beginning of civilization, the more discoveries do not fit into the picture presented by official history. A strange feeling arises, as if someone was here before us and disappeared, leaving behind clues that we are afraid to acknowledge. Conventionally, written history begins about 5,000 years ago. But Göbekli Tepe, an archaeological complex in modern-day Turkey dating back 12,000 years, is already disrupting the familiar chronology. Who built this temple complex long before the invention of the wheel, agriculture, and the state? And why? What's more, Göbekli Tepe was deliberately buried thousands of years ago, as if someone wanted to hide it. This is not an isolated case. All over the world, archaeologists are finding megaliths, underground complexes, traces of mysterious architectural ideas and strange technologies. Many of them date back to a time when, according to the official version, humans were supposed to live in animal skins and hunt mammoths. But granite polished to a perfect flat surface and blocks weighing 100 tons clearly suggest otherwise. It is these discoveries that are beginning to cast doubt on the school version of history. Why aren't they taught in school? Why do scientists often dismiss such evidence as anomalies? Why do scientific journals refuse to publish works that go beyond the accepted chronology? Some researchers, risking their reputations, say aloud what others are afraid to voice. The history of humanity may be much deeper and more complicated than we are used to thinking. Perhaps civilizations rose and fell long before Sumer and Egypt. Perhaps we mistakenly take the traces of their achievements for natural formations or later forgeries. Or, even worse, we deliberately ignore them. What if the real history of humanity is not a straight line from the Stone Age to the computer, but a broken spiral in which the same technologies are rediscovered over and over again? What if we are not the first humans to reach the level of consciousness? These questions are not idle curiosity. They raise a topic that cannot be ignored. Who were humans before they began to record their histories? And why are the traces of their existence so inconvenient for science? If megaliths were rare, they could be dismissed as a coincidence or a quirk of nature. But they are scattered across the planet, like traces of some ancient architectural tradition we know nothing about. Baalbek in Lebanon, Sacsayhuaman in Peru, Pumapunku in Bolivia, Stonehenge in England, Nan Madol in Micronesia. These places have one thing in common: the technology used to build them baffles even modern engineers. Baalbek, huge limestone blocks, the largest of which weigh more than 800 tons. One such block, the Southern Stone, is estimated to weigh almost 1,000 tons. It is polished and fits perfectly into the base of an ancient temple, as if it had been laid with a giant crane. But official history claims that it was all built by the Romans, without explaining how. Pumapunku, boulders of andesite with perfectly straight angles, drill marks, and high-precision processing. The stones look as if they were cut using industrial machines, although, according to official data, this is the work of the ancient Tiwanaku civilization, which lived in the Stone Age. How they did it without metal or wheels remains a mystery. Saksaiwamen, walls made of giant polygonal blocks, each of which has a complex shape and is fitted to the neighboring stone so precisely that even a knife blade cannot be inserted between them. The stones appear to have been melted and shaped in place. But who possessed such technology? And why have the walls survived numerous earthquakes, while modern buildings collapse? Stonehenge. This stone circle has long been a symbol of a prehistoric mystery. But few tourists wonder how huge megaliths were transported from hundreds of kilometers away and erected with such precision in an era when writing supposedly did not even exist. Nan Madol, a city on water, built from basalt columns, each weighing between 5 and 50 tons. They are stacked like giant logs into a structure of canals and platforms extending into the ocean. There are no quarries nearby, nor any written records of how or why it was built. And these are not isolated cases. This is a global phenomenon. Regardless of continent, climate, or ethnic composition of the population, in ancient times, people built something strikingly similar. The style, technology, and scale are such that it seems as if a forgotten civilization existed and spread its knowledge across the earth. A natural question arises. Could people in the Stone Age have possessed such sophisticated technologies? Or did they simply inherit them from someone who lived before them? From someone who knew how to work with stone, how to pass on knowledge, and how to build for the ages? Official science has a simple answer: coincidence, evolution of skills, collective unconsciousness. But every new megalith found in jungles, deserts, and at the bottom of the sea destroys this fragile construct. After all, technology either exists or it doesn't. And the traces of technology are right in front of us. These structures are not just stones. They are cries through the millennia, frozen evidence of those we do not know or do not want to know. If megaliths make us look up, then underground cities make us look down. There, in the darkness, lie entire worlds whose existence we never suspected. The most famous of these is Derinkuyu, located in Cappadocia, Turkey. This underground labyrinth extends 8 floors deep into the earth and can accommodate up to 20,000 people along with livestock, supplies, and weapons. Derinkuyu is built in such a way that it feels like it is not just a refuge, but a full-fledged city designed for long-term autonomous living. Ventilation shafts, wells, churches, schools, warehouses, wine cellars, everything has been thought out down to the smallest detail. Moreover, most of it was carved out of solid volcanic tuff, without any traces of modern technology. It is not known exactly when this city was built. Official history attributes it to the Phrygians, i.e., approximately the 8th century BC. But local legends tell a different story. According to them, Derinkuyu existed long before the first kingdoms appeared. It was built by ancestors to escape a catastrophe that came from the sky. This refers either to some kind of cosmic threat or to a large-scale war, ancient and forgotten. And Derinkuyu is not the only one. Dozens of underground complexes have been discovered throughout Cappadocia. Some of them are connected by narrow tunnels, creating a network comparable to a metro system. And although archaeologists continue to discover new levels and passages, there is still no explanation as to why such colossal efforts were made. Underground cities are not unique to Turkey. Traces of underground settlements have been found in Iran, India, Bulgaria, and China. Some of them are so ancient that it is impossible to date them accurately. They are carefully buried, closed off, or not included in scientific research, being referred to as natural caves. But caves are not built according to an architectural plan. Caves are not equipped with ventilation shafts and protective doors that can be rolled up with stone drums weighing several tons. Why are these underground complexes so persistently ignored? One reason may lie in their purpose. These cities were not residential. They were defensive. People do not live underground unless absolutely necessary. So there must have been a necessity. But what exactly forced people to go underground? A flood? A nuclear winter? A radiation burst? It sounds like an apocalyptic scenario. But that is exactly what the cities themselves look like. Shelters from the end of the world. Underground complexes shatter our image of primitive man. This is not a savage with a spear. This is an engineer, an architect, a strategist. Who he was, we do not know. But his work is carved into the rock. And all we are left with is to ask uncomfortable questions. There are objects that cannot be explained by official science. They are found by accident, in mines, layers of rock, museum archives. They do not fit into the usual chronology and destroy our understanding of the technological level of ancient man. Such finds have a special name: artifacts outside of time. Efforts are made to keep them out of the public eye, hiding them in museum storerooms and calling them interpretation errors. But this does not make them disappear. One of the most famous such objects is the Antikythera mechanism, an ancient Greek device raised from the seabed near the island of Antikythera in the early 20th century. For a long time, it was considered to be just pieces of corroded bronze. But in the early 2000s, computer tomography revealed that it was a complex analog computing device with many gears, capable of accurately predicting solar and lunar eclipses, the positions of the planets, and the phases of the moon. The mechanism dates back to the 2nd century BC, but in terms of accuracy, it is comparable to an 18th century clock. Who made it? And did the Greeks inherit the technology from someone more ancient? Another example is the stone balls of Costa Rica. They are scattered throughout the country, ranging in diameter from a few centimeters to 3 meters. Most of them are almost perfectly spherical. According to archaeologists, they were made by pre-Columbian Indians. But the question remains: how did they achieve such geometric precision without metal tools? And most importantly, why? The balls had no practical use. They seem to have been created to demonstrate capabilities. Even more frightening objects have been found. For example, traces of mechanical processing in mines, which, according to geological stratification, are several 100,000 years old. Metal screws in stone. Drawings resembling electrical circuit diagrams in ancient Egyptian temples. Figures resembling flying machines. All these finds fit into one model, a model of forgotten technologies that we know nothing about, but which have somehow survived through the centuries. One of the most controversial artifacts remains the so-called Baghdad battery, a clay pot with a copper tube and an iron rod inside. When filled with vinegar, it begins to emit an electric current. The object is estimated to be about 2,000 years old. The question arises, if this is a source of electricity, what was it used for? And did its creators have other electrical devices? All these finds are united not only by their impossibility, but also by the reaction to them. They are avoided in academic circles. They do not appear in textbooks, and they are not discussed in lectures. They are studied by enthusiasts, independent researchers, or ignored altogether. Why? Because a single artifact of this kind is capable of bringing down the entire edifice of historical science. And that means admitting that there is something we do not know. Or worse, that we are hiding something. The history of technology is not a straight line from stone to silicon. It is a network. And there are breaks, gaps, and hidden nodes in it. We only see what we are allowed to see. But among the official data, there are drops of the past that cannot be explained, unless we admit that we are not the first, and perhaps not the most advanced. Science is the greatest tool of knowledge created by humanity. But it has a dark side, and its name is conformism. When a new discovery challenges the established worldview, it is more often rejected than accepted. This is especially true when it concerns history, the very foundation of our collective consciousness. After all, if it turns out that our civilization is not the first, that someone came before us and possessed technologies beyond our imagination, the entire historical model falls apart. There are dozens of examples of academic rejection. One of them is Dr. Richard Thompson, a researcher who discovered data in the archives about stone tools and skeletons found in layers that are more than 2 million years old. These findings did not correspond to the theory of evolution and were officially recognized as erroneous. The archaeologists who made the discoveries lost their grants, and the laboratories ceased operations. Why? Because such data did not fit into the chronology established by textbooks, or the story of Michael Cremo, author of Forbidden Archaeology. In his work, he systematized findings that contradicted the generally accepted chronology. He was accused of pseudoscience, his book was removed from most academic libraries, and he was banned from speaking at conferences. At the same time, none of the facts presented in the book were refuted from a methodological point of view. The problem was not with the data, but with its inconvenience. Scientists who offer alternative views are met with ridicule, boycotts, and exclusion from the academic community. They are labeled pseudo-historians, conspiracy theorists, and freaks. But if you read their work carefully, it becomes clear that it contains much more rigorous research than the stream of similar peer-reviewed articles repeating the same theses. Why has science, the very science that is supposed to question, verify, and discover, suddenly become the guardian of dogma? It's simple: grants, careers, recognition. All of this requires conformity to the generally accepted picture of the world. Try to step out of line, and you're out. Findings that suggest the existence of an intermediate civilization are particularly painful. Neither primitive hunters nor highly developed technocrats, but something else entirely. Those who left behind giant blocks, polished surfaces, underground catacombs, and astronomical knowledge beyond the capabilities of Bronze Age tribes. No one wants to talk about them, because they don't fit in anywhere. But the question remains, if science ignores such evidence, who will study it? Alternative researchers, journalists, truth seekers, or perhaps we ourselves? If we don't take everything we're told at face value, sometimes, in order to move forward, we need to admit that part of our past is a blank slate, and the longer we keep it quiet, the darker the world around us becomes. When artifacts do not fit into the official picture, when megaliths defy engineering explanation, and underground cities cast doubt on the development of society, the question inevitably arises: what if we did not build all this? Or, more precisely, what if it was not built by those we consider to be our ancestors? Alternative history puts forward a hypothesis. Before the civilization, we know long before the Sumerians, Egyptians, and Indian kingdoms, there was another culture on Earth. A developed, perhaps even technologically advanced one. It is sometimes called the First Circle Civilization. We do not know its name. We do not know its language. We have no written sources. But we see traces in stone, underground, in legends. For example, the Indian Vimanas, descriptions of flying machines recorded in ancient texts, which, according to scientists, are several thousand years old. Or Plato's myth of Atlantis, a highly developed civilization with a fleet, science, and power that, according to him, was destroyed 9,000 years ago. Many consider this to be merely a philosophical parable. But if we compare Plato's description with archaeological data on mysterious structures at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, an alarming coincidence emerges. There is also indirect evidence in religious texts. The Old Testament mentions giants, the Nephilim, who lived before the flood. Sumerian cuneiform tablets tell of beings who came from the sky and taught humans writing, agriculture, and construction. The Mayans and Aztecs refer in their chronicles to ancestors who were able to build pyramids with ease. Everywhere there is a motif of lost knowledge. Some researchers go even further. They suggest that before our era, there was a civilization that possessed global knowledge and spread its technology throughout the planet. This could explain why megaliths are built according to the same principles in Peru, Egypt, Japan, and Micronesia. Why are the same astronomical patterns, for example, orientation towards Orion, used in different cultures that had no contact with each other? There are even hypotheses about pre-humans, intelligent beings that existed on Earth before Homo sapiens. This idea sounds fantastic, but studies of some skulls found in China, South Africa, and Siberia show strange deviations: enlarged brain volumes, different skull proportions, abnormal eye socket structures. The findings are not publicized, but they exist. In museums, in closed laboratories, in reports that will never be made available to the public. Of course, these are hypotheses, but one indisputable fact speaks in their favor. The deeper we dig, the more we find not savagery, but order. Not primitiveness, but engineering. Not randomness, but symmetry. This is not a path from chaos to progress. It is a path from former greatness to oblivion. Perhaps someone has already traveled this path before us. Perhaps history is not a linear process, but a cycle. Rise, flourishing, fall. And then it all starts again. We are simply a new cycle. But if that is the case, then we still have a chance not to repeat their mistakes. To do this, we need to know what they were. History is not just a collection of facts. It is a mirror in which humanity seeks its own reflection. But what if the mirror is cracked? What if our image is not complete, but truncated, retouched, convenient for perception? All these megaliths, underground cities, strange technologies, and forgotten artifacts are not just archaeological curiosities. They are pieces of a broken mosaic. And if we put them together, we may get a picture where man is not the crown of evolution, but a link in a chain. Not the beginning, but a continuation, or even a repetition. Why does official science refuse to acknowledge inconvenient findings? Perhaps because it means that much of what we have been taught is not the truth, but a version of it. Perhaps because acknowledging a forgotten civilization that disappeared thousands of years ago means that our civilization is not eternal. That we too may be forgotten, just as we have forgotten those who came before us. But the question remains, if someone came before us, who were they? And who were we before we began to record our history? Perhaps we are the descendants of those who survived a catastrophe. Perhaps we are the survivors who lost everything and started over. Or maybe we are just those who found their traces and are afraid to admit how much they do not fit into our familiar reality. But one thing is certain: the past is not as simple as it seems, and those who dare to see it will no longer be able to look at the present with the same eyes.